Hey, everyone. Welcome to Locked On Lakers for Monday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers take care of business in Houston and are only a half game out of the 5th seed in the West. Oh, yeah. That's next.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on weekends. No matter how or where you get your podcasts, it's always going to be free, never behind a paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show, engage with a fast-growing community of Lakers fans who are getting more and more excited by the day as the Lakers keep, as Darvin Ham would say, stacking up wins. I want to let everybody know that today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. First-time users can receive a $100 instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That is, the promo code is Locked On, prizepicks.com. All right, Andy, 134 to 109. The Lakers win as you predicted they would after Friday's game. Andy, for people who might have missed our post-game show following the huge win over Minnesota on Friday, Andy referred to this as we will be back after the Houston win on Sunday. So he called his shot. Now, I will say, saying the Lakers would go on the road and beat the Houston Rockets, who are awful, is not quite, Babe Ruth telling a sick child he would hit a home run for him, but it's still calling your shot. And if you had screwed this up for everyone, Andy, oh my God, wrath.
I appreciate you, Brian, being generous in this depiction, but the reality is I was not calling my shot. I actually had a total Freudian slip, and I didn't even realize until you pointed it out to me that I'd referred to it as the Houston win. And as I tweeted out at Cam Brothers on at least a couple of occasions after listeners pointed this out to me, I have been basically sweating bullets and bleeping bricks ever since then. Like, I've been really nervous because you know me, Brian. Like, I am, how like LeVar Ball always talked about speaking it into existence. I have a huge fear, as you know, of speaking things into inexistence.
Non-existence, yes.
Yeah, non-existence. I am very, very fearful of the reversed verbal jinx.
Basketball gods had this one. They got it laid out. It's spring break everywhere, so they got to get ahead of their jobs. So they got this one laid out as a win, and then they hear your fat mouth just and they're like, "Oh, really, Andy Kamenetsky?"
And again,
cross that off the list.
This was not me like Jerry Seinfeld at the table smoking the cigar, taking money from Elaine, all cocky. This was me really just Freudian slip, and but thankfully we're all good.
Yeah, all good.
We are all good.
Look,
we had actually
134-109. You weren't really threatened in this one. The Lakers got off to a really good start. First and foremost, I think it is important to point out two things. The Lakers played a solid game. We'll get into it. An efficient game. They very businesslike, I thought, in their effort on Sunday. It also helps that the Rockets, after performing like a playoff team in the last game in terms of how they were shooting and all that other stuff, the Rockets kind of turned back into the Rockets on Sunday. You got a real taste for why they've only won 19 games this season.
It also helped that the Lakers guarded them.
Yeah, no, I mean, all of it. Like, the Lakers put out a much better effort, and I like games like this one because, outside of a bit of a loose second quarter defensively, the Lakers were very good throughout. In the other three quarters, they were excellent. 26.
Honestly, that second quarter was really more Şengün than the team really going off. Like, he had, I don't know how high of a ceiling Şengün has, but his floor is both high and super entertaining.
Oh, he's fun to watch. Yeah,
he is. Really
he's still very young.
But he had isolated sequences where he got LeBron, he got Rui, he even got AD on a
AD a couple
sequence.
times, actually. Yeah, he's
Like-
20, born in July of 2002. So that makes he was 20, right?
20 or 21.
20 or 21, so very young. I mean, look, they've got talented players
They're just
on
not
that
ready.
team. Kevin Porter Jr. is a talented player. As a rotation guy, I'd put KJ Martin on my team, and Green has got talent. I mean, they've got a lot of talented players. They are a wretched team.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how well
ready.
coached they are.
They're not ready to be competitive yet. In a couple of years, you might look at this group of talent and be like, the way the Thunder were in 2010, where you knew like, okay, this group has arrived. Maybe that happens, but for the time being,
Yeah.
No, and the Lakers, they did not play this game with the urgency of a playoff game 7, because quite frankly, it's not. But what they did play, though, was disciplined. They played with the discipline of a game that mattered, even if they did not play with more urgency than it's necessary. It's like the way Denzel Washington, he treats his role in Unstoppable or the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 or the Equalizer. He treats it with professionalism. He treats the role with appropriateness. He does not treat it, though, like his role in Fences, because that would be ridiculous.
Yeah, it's funny, right? It's like
silly.
It is, and it's professional. I think, and so like the Lakers
never looks down on those roles. He never looks down on
1, 2, 3 effort on Sunday. It was very professional, and the results were kind of entertaining. And so,
I love
like
that movie. I just watched it a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I enjoyed that film. But you talk about the discipline, and the Lakers very obviously knew they were significantly better than Houston. And in that second quarter, when Şengün started to go and they hit a couple threes and whatever it might be, it's the Lakers were careful not to foul. They were careful not to, and so Houston only went to the line 10 times. It was their building, by the way. And so it's
the Lakers only had 5 turnovers.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like they only had 5 turnovers over the course of the game. They didn't put Houston on the line. And so I think some of the defensive things, like guys would get inside. The Lakers were careful not to and one. And that's good, because you don't want to, you don't want to do things to get yourself in foul trouble. You don't want to do things that, give points to the other team. You don't turn the ball over to give them easy points out on the break. One of the only things Houston can kind of do. And then they did a good job getting out in transition. And you think the Lakers aren't good in transition defensively. Oh my God, the Rockets are like one of the worst things I've ever seen. And
they really are.
They didn't need to play like this was, sort of matching the intensity. They had plenty of intensity, plenty of focus, and they knew what they needed to do to win this game and win it comfortably. This wasn't one of those deals where, okay, they got away with it, or no. I mean, they were in control of this game throughout. And even when Houston crept back into, I think it was 7 or 8 or something like that in the second quarter, there was zero fear that the game itself was in any danger, because it was very obvious. First of all, the Rockets could not guard Anthony Davis. 40 points, 15 of 20 from the floor, 10 of 12 from the line. And they just could not guard him. And then when Davis wasn't on the floor, you had LeBron. He had a triple-double, 18 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists. Rui Hachimura had 20 points. That's got to be a high as a Laker.
I believe it is.
On the floor, from the floor, 12 points. Like
3 blocks. He was fantastic on both ends. Rui was.
Yeah, he was really good.
LeBron said after the game, Rui gets the game ball. Rui is fantastic in this game.
Lakers shot 56% from the floor in this game, and that includes 9 of 30 from 3-point range. So it's not like they were really, lighting it up from downtown, and they still shot 56%. Gives you an idea of just how well that was going. They only shot 75% from the line, which is fine, but it's not, world beating. They knew they could get buckets whenever they needed one. Or wanted one in this game, and that was pretty clear. So, but let's talk about Rui a little bit, because I think we've talked a lot about rotations And I think one of the things that became clear in Sunday's game, I think it was clear in Friday's game, is that Darvin has kind of an idea now of how how he wants to portion out minutes to whom and when, and keep the balance of having the best players on the floor for most of the time. So we'll talk about all that next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Prize Picks. And if Laker fans, you have not signed up yet for Prize Picks, you are missing out on daily fantasy made easy. Prize Picks has the best NBA DFS prop game on the market, more NBA props than any other DFS prop operator. They offer the superstar players, they offer the bench players. Just pick 2 to 6 players and whether they will notch more or less than the Prize Picks stats projection. And if your predictions are correct, you can win up to 25 times your money. And Prize Picks offers projections on everything from baseball, that's now in full swing, PGA, actual golf, disc golf, which beer golf, fun golf, whatever you want to call it, it's a real deal. And Prize Picks has it. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. Safe, fast withdrawals. Download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com. Sign up, play daily fantasy sports, and first-time users, you can receive a 100% instant match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. Again, that is the promo code Locked On. Don't forget it. That's how you get the instant match. If you're not playing Prize Picks, you don't know what you're missing.
Quick update here from a sort of a housekeeping standpoint. D'Angelo Russell did not play in the second half. He sat for what Darvin Ham called after the game were precautionary reasons. It was a foot thing.
Foot soreness is what House described.
Foot soreness isn't that far from foot thing when you're just kind of, figuring out these things. It's not a very technical diagnosis.
No, foot thing could be a fetish.
Do we know for sure that's why he didn't play in the second half?
I'd like to think that's not why he didn't play.
Look, Darvin certainly wouldn't say it out loud if it was.
Although I guess it would explain why he said if he absolutely had to play, he could have. Darvin did clarify that.
Right. Like, look, man, we're willing to make concessions up to a point, D'Angelo.
Like the foot fetish better not happen later in the week against the Clippers.
Right. No, it's too important a game.
You gotta play.
As I like to say, there's a lid for every pot.
Let's also make it clear. Foot soreness.
Foot soreness, right.
This is how rumors start.
Anyway, moving on.
Mercifully.
This is probably the one Locke is going to listen to, isn't it?
Probably.
So the point being that he could have played. I think that to the point we were talking about in the first segment about how kind of professional, workmanlike, and unthreatening this game was. I think the Lakers made it very clear, and Darvin was fully confident that you could sit D'Angelo in the second half of this game, make sure he's healthy for Tuesday and Wednesday against the Jazz and the Clippers, and go from there. So nothing yet to be worried about with Russell, although obviously the last time everybody seemed to indicate he was okay, he missed like 2 weeks. So we'll see. Anyway, so that's the housekeeping there. Hachimura was fantastic in this game, and particularly the combination of the two of them. Our friend Darius Soriano pointed out that LeBron and Rui coming into tonight's game, into Sunday's game, had played 57 minutes together without Anthony Davis on the court. So this is, again, the rotation kind of tweaks and adjustments that that Darvin is making. Lakers have a net rating of plus 41 in those minutes, 118.5 offensive rating, 77 defensive rating. Those numbers improved on Sunday.
Well, I mean, look, you've been hearing me say for at least a couple weeks that I think Rui should be playing more. I have felt that for a while. You may recall the game that Rui got a DNP CD when LeBron came off the bench, and very clear there was a correlation between LeBron coming off the bench. Those forward minutes were apparently going, Rui's forward minutes were apparently going to LeBron. The two could not play together. My reaction to that was pretty much an angry WTF, man. It's not surprising that the two of them could play very well together. They both, as Rui talked about after the game, they both like to run the floor, and they both have a lot of size. They both have a lot of athleticism. LeBron was really singing Rui's praises after the game, talking about there aren't a lot of guys in the league who can guard someone of, again, Rui's size, that skill, the ability to create his own shot, that athleticism. And LeBron also talked after the game about how Darvin lately has been, as you mentioned, Brian, tweaking the rotation and becoming a little bit more methodical about who's playing where and presumably why. But in bringing that up, LeBron mentioned that Rui is now one of the first guys off the bench. And I took all of this to mean that LeBron agrees with me. Play Rui a lot. And I'll say this. What if there was any intentionality at all behind that DNPCD, as opposed to, as I thought then and clearly think now, that was Darvin overthinking the hell out of it? Rui has responded really well.
Right. It's important to note
he's had as a Laker.
It's important to note on Friday, he only had 4 points, but he played 21 minutes and was a plus 20. And so, like, good things were happening.
His defense against Karl Anthony Towns against Minnesota changed the game.
Right. It was really big. And, you know, it seems like we did a whole show last week on kind of the staggering, like they've found a starting lineup that looks good. And, you know, the starting lineup now of LeBron, AD, Vanderbilt, Russell, Reeves is 3-0, and has looked good. And the minutes have been very positive. The metrics are all positive in that, but you have to figure out, okay, how do you split this up in a way that kind of maximizes what you've got there? And what it seems like Darvin has settled on is something where, because I think it's pretty much what he did, more or less what he did on Friday as well, subbing out when you have the subs out in terms of keeping your best players on the floor. He is keeping Anthony Davis and Russell together with, you know, pick a couple players, but, you know, whichever subs, but like those guys stay on the floor to finish.
It's usually Rui, Beasley, and Troy Brown coming
right
in.
I hesitate to use usually because I think some of those little, you know, supported, but on Friday, that's when Beasley hit the 3 threes in the first half against Minnesota. Rui was in on Sunday. It was, you know, the 3 that you're talking about there. And then when you shift to the small lineup, when AD is not on the floor, that's when you have the third, you know, LeBron with Schroeder and Reeves is back on the floor. And so it's a smaller lineup with the extra ball handler. And then I guess, you know, the fewer ball handlers, but you have Anthony Davis as a fulcrum and a focal point for your offense there. And I like that balance. I like, you know, and it's going to tweak here. You might have a third guy here, whatever, but as maybe an emerging pattern, if you can call 2 games that, they've only had 3 with this lineup, that to me makes sense. And you can argue with it. Maybe there's a more optimal way to do it. But if this is the pattern they get into, I would love to see them stick to it. It's one that makes some sense. You have combinations like Rui and LeBron playing together that are very effective. And, you know, the rhythm, a couple people put out clips of this from Friday's game. The rhythm on the pick and roll, for example, with Russell and Davis is getting better. The timing and the coordination between the two of them, how they move down the lane, how they dive, where they pop, whatever it might be, it's getting better. So I want them to stick to something. If this is the thing that they've come up with and think they should stick to, more or less, cool. Go with God. I like this.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this before. I still would prefer that they avoid any combination that doesn't include 2 of the primary ball handlers. You know, whether you're talking about Russell, Reeves, LeBron, Schroeder, I would prefer 2 of those guys be out there at all times, because you mentioned those D'Lo, AD anchored units that, again, have of late at least been Rui,
right, it's 2 games.
Troy.
You know, well, we're
Beasley.
looking at like since the
LeBron
comes off the bench. No, but the LeBron came off the bench in the first game, and since LeBron was in the starting lineup, has been with the full group. It's 2 games. It's Friday and it's Sunday.
Sure, but I there's been ability though to have all of those guys. I think there's been more of an ability to make sure that between those four guys, two are on the floor at all times. Like as I was going to say, the D'Lo AD grouping, those two, I agree, are starting to develop more chemistry together. And D'Lo likes having a lob threat. He likes having a guy that can roll to the basket. I think, though, that the offense can sometimes get a bit choppy because outside of D'Lo, there's nobody that would be along the perimeter that can create their own shot. I mean, well, let me rephrase. Rui can create his own shot. There's nobody else that can really set up anybody dependably. It's really D'Lo manufacturing shots for everybody else.
Yes and no. And I think this is where it becomes a little bit more incumbent for them to run a coherent offense. And,
I suppose
they're not freelancing with that group. But look, I mean, on Friday it was effective. That's, again, Beasley comes in and he hits 3 threes. Because they gave up the lead with the starters on the floor at the end of the first half on Friday. It was not
right, but there have been a period.
Groups.
I know, but there have been a period before that where even if they weren't giving up a lead, it was more because Minnesota was struggling with their shots. The Lakers' offense for a period was really choppy when it was just D'Lo out there.
It was worse when the starters got back on the floor. So, I mean, there are going to be ebbs and flows of every game.
Right, but if you're playing the point being, if you're playing the odds, I think it will be better on balance with two of those guys out there to create more looks.
I don't. Obviously, I think this is fine. And
I mean, again, this is not no, this has been a peeve of mine. I would like to see them do it more. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to complain angrily about it after a 25-point win. I am concerned, though, about worse effects against a better team. But we'll see.
I mean, the rotation that they've gone with has looked effective now for 2 games in a row.
The overall rotation, no issues with it.
And so, there will be games where you have to tweak it based on who you're playing. It'd be interesting, Utah, even if, especially if Markkanen is in the lineup on Tuesday, and he probably will be. I mean, Utah still got a chance to squeak into that 10 spot. You probably can't give up yet. But Markkanen's been also dealing with a hand injury. So we'll see. They got Markkanen, then you got Kessler, who is an enormous human being. That presents interesting lineup challenges. Obviously the Clippers are, kind of a unique matchup as well. But yeah, so they got to settle on something. They don't have a whole lot of time to do it. I think they've found something coherent. A little more about where the Lakers stand, because to say this thing has turned quickly for LA and this get back trip that Anthony Davis described, they're getting back in a big way. There are some opportunities on the table here. That's next.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by Built Bar. And if you're looking for an awesome treat, but you don't want the fat and the calories, you got to try yourself a Built Bar. Easter is coming up, and that means candy, and even more candy, which means you got to offset that candy while still feeling like you're in the Easter Bunny spirit. All the candy, that's where Built Bar will help you out. With Built, healthy actually tastes great. It's perfect for all that Easter candy that is coming your way. And as always, Built Bars, they're covered in 100% real chocolate, unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. They taste like the candy bars that I was just talking about, but only 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, 17 grams of protein. That's what you want. And you don't even have to wait around for a box. You can, as we've talked about for years, get your Built Bars at Built.com. It's still a great option, but if you want them quicker, just go to the local Walmart in the pharmacy section, go to a Sam's Club. Either way, you can pick up a box with sort of different flavors and enjoy them.
Okay, so quick peek at the standings here. We mentioned how profitable Sunday was for the Lakers. Everyone lost. Everyone in the Lakers wanted to lose lost. The Blazers the Timberwolves managed to lose at home to the Blazers, which is hard to do, but they managed to do it. So kudos to them.
Staggering. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's a terrible loss. Phoenix beat Oklahoma City. And the Warriors, this is the big one. The Warriors lost on the road to Denver, despite Denver playing without Nikola Jokic.
They can't win on the road, baby.
They really can't. So the results of all that, the Lakers are now 40-38, a half game behind the Warriors for the 6th spot. The Lakers do have a game in hand. The Warriors have played one more. Lakers also have a game in hand on the Clippers, who they play on Wednesday. So they are live all the way up to 5. That may still be a bit of a reach, just in terms of, those teams have a lead. They can, the Clippers especially, control their destiny there. But it is live. Like, that is, a real possibility. They have 2 games remaining against Utah, and one against the Suns, who are in that kind of tweener spot. They are not going to catch Sacramento for the 3. That is, mathematically impossible. If they can, if they ended up with a game or 2 of space over the Clippers, they might get, fairly confidently locked into that 4 spot, which would mean perhaps resting guys. So we'll see how that goes. I doubt it, but just because it's a big enough game and it's the Lakers and it's
that's not why I doubt it. I doubt it because Phoenix needs the reps. They actually need the time together. I think to me, I think they will prioritize safety and rest over that. I think that's a risky play. I think that we'll see. Look, maybe we'll see what they do.
See what happens. I mean, mathematically, it may not matter, but
I think whether it matters mathematically or not, I wouldn't necessarily play those guys 35 minutes in a game that doesn't matter, but I would play them 15 to 20. Like, they need.
But even that 15 to 20 significantly impacts. You get 15 and 20 minutes of Booker and Durant. That's 15 minutes less than you should. So
absolutely, but it's still 15 to 20 minutes that you got to contend with them.
Okay,
I mean, those guys
better.
Can. Those
all I'm saying is things are opening up. The only game left where you can look at it and say that the team that they're playing is 100% guaranteed to be going full out is the Clipper game, or the Tuesday against Utah. But Utah's not playing well. Even Markkanen played on Sunday, for example, and they still lost. So fading fast are the Jazz, with basically all of their depth gone at this point.
Damn right. By the way, things are opening up. The Lakers are 2 games above 500 for the first time since January 7th, 2022. Like,
is that Austin Reeves? Got to follow our Twitter feed. All right. So before we get to this question of AD and which part of the back-to-back, something stuck out for you with LeBron post-game.
Yeah, he talking about this team and the way they've been playing right now and the rhythm that they're on, the rhythm that they're in, and just how good they look right now. He referred to them as my guys, and this may be a total reach on my part, or maybe it's just indicative of me not hearing other instances recently where it's happened, but I haven't heard LeBron refer to the supporting cast as my guys in a minute. And typically in superstar speak, but specifically to LeBron speak, my guys is code for I'm really confident. Like, I like this team. I like what we can do. And LeBron talked about after this game how the goal is winning a championship. And, they want to put themselves in a position to compete for a championship. He acknowledged they don't have many games together. It's still, a journey of sorts, but he likes what they've been building, even what they built during the period where he was out. If anything, I think what he built during the period he was out is what cemented to him what they could do. And he really likes the chemistry that they've been building. But again, hearing him use that phrase, my guys, immediately jumped out to me as LeBron believes in what they got right now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if he has or he hasn't. I haven't paid, I don't have like the my guys meter or anything like active. But your basic point is undoubtedly true. I mean, I'm not sure I would want to claim ownership for this team for a lot of the time. First of all, for, not to make this again, everything's about Westbrook, but I don't know if you want to make the my guys thing while Russ is there, because it reminds everybody that, hey, you helped bring that guy here. And then it wasn't a group you wanted to claim ownership over. And I don't mean to say like LeBron is like back there being like, yep, I made this happen, I brought this team together, but like he is the leader of this group. And when he says my guys, when Kobe would say my guys, whatever, it's like that is the term that these guys throw out when they, like you say, believe in what's around them.
We covered Kobe teams where we heard my guys, and where we didn't hear my guys, you could usually
decidedly
figure out why.
Someone else's guys.
Yes.
These are not my guys. These are someone else's.
No. There were a few years where they were definitely Jim Buss and Mitch Kupchak.
I don't know who these guys are, who they belong to, but it ain't me. If anybody knows, please come claim them, because I don't want them. I found 4 of them in the lost and found Staples Center, and they looked malnourished, and so I took them home. He should be confident. Like, 4 rounds, injuries, all the caveats. We should have a rolling scroll of like Star Wars style of all these things.
Continuity.
There is not a team in the Western Conference playoffs that you would look at and say, no, like no way. Even if I wouldn't pick the Lakers to beat Denver, even if I wouldn't pick them to beat Memphis, and with Ja back, the Grizzlies have quietly won 8 of 10 and they're looking good again. They had that sort of mini slump, but they are looking really good again. I'd pick those teams to beat the Lakers in a series right now. But I wouldn't pick them in 4, and I wouldn't pick them in 5. I would think these are long, difficult series. And it definitionally, I'm so excited, by the way, that we might be in a position where we get to have this conversation again. Definitionally, if you pick a team to beat another team in 6, if you pick them to beat them in 7, you're basically saying this is a pretty even series. If I pick them in 6, I could say that's a 60-40 series. Well, things that happen 40% of the time happen all the time.
It's a weighted coin flip in poker terms.
It is. Would I pick the Lakers or the Kings to beat the Lakers? Not the way the Kings play defense. I don't think I would. Not in an opening round. And by the way, that is very possibly, if the Lakers get into 6, I would say even probably what the opening round would be. And so could they beat the Suns? Sure. I haven't seen enough of the Suns to know for sure. Maybe I'd pick Phoenix to win that series with KD and Booker healthy.
It's one team cobbling everything together versus another team cobbling everything together. But the Lakers have, I think, better depth than Phoenix.
The Clippers, that's not a likely series, but like maybe the Clippers, just because if George is back, the Clippers have beaten the snot out of the Lakers.
Clippers are a tough matchup for the Lakers.
It's a tough matchup, whatever, but that's not going to be a matchup that happens. It's only in a play-in. Would you see that in a first round? And so going forward, it's Golden State with their road troubles. You think the Lakers couldn't beat them? I certainly do. They've beaten them already this year. They have the tiebreak. So if I'm LeBron, I look at it like that too. It's like, I believe that we can play with anybody, because the track record shows since the trade deadline, the Lakers are as good as any team in the Western Conference.
Yeah, especially when you consider how well they played. And again, LeBron referenced this when they didn't even have him.
Right.
Hell, at times how they played without LeBron or AD.
And he hasn't had to do that much since he came back.
Nope.
In a nice game on Sunday, but like he's letting AD cook, as they say. He's there when the Lakers need him, but it has not been as taxing on LeBron either to work his way back from this foot problem since he came back on the floor than I think everybody thought it might be.
Darvin Ham described his triple-double against Houston as effortless. It's kind of how it looked.
Yeah, basically. All right, well, we'll get to this AD thing. We'll see maybe there'll be some information that answers this question for us, but it'd still be an open debate as to which is the better side of this. If you can only play one game, we'll talk about that for Tuesday. Again, Lakers visiting Utah We'll get you caught up with everything ahead of that one. Taylor Horton-Tucker playing really good basketball. Maybe this is his revenge game, like Pat Bev. So we'll see how that goes.
Is he going to too small?
Yeah. Locked on. He's got really long arms. He can do the too small thing and touch the floor without even bending down. Locked on Lakers on YouTube is where you go to see the show. I do miss THT just for the arm length jokes. And we'll see everybody on Tuesday.